Welcome to House Sparks Mega Worldwide. It's Friday, and it feels like Monday and Wednesday all wrapped into one. This is just wow. Like, I knew that we were going to have some major issues on the right wing dealing with Trump's indictment. That this flagging, bow-legged, drunken horse they had bet their life savings on, facing the wrong way at the starting gate, farting his way through it, managing to clear the track once, and they're like, "This is it. This is our time. Here we go. I'm doubling down on this moron." And when they knew full well that, like, everything that they at least pretended to stand for forever was anathema to this dude, and he was only pretending to give a fuck just because he saw them as suckers. Like, the way Trump thinks about maggots in general is fucking embarrassing, because he thinks less of them than I do. Like, the term maggot that I came up, with, and thank you very much, big MAGA, small t, small s, as a reference to these folks, it's kind of minuscule, feeding on dead flesh, and the best they can ever hope to be is flies. Yeah, it fits on a front level, but it's, in all honesty, it's kind of a cute poke name. It's not, like, I'm not walking up to any of these people who are disgruntled against life and calling them, "You fucking maggot," to their face, because we have a conversation. They understand that in the world of comedy, like, there is a baseline I don't go below if I can help it, especially if unprovoked by any particular act. And there are certainly moments where provocations happen that call for a different behavior, but most of the time, I can have a discussion with just about anything with just about anybody, and I think that's a good reflex to have. However, Trump clearly does not think this way about his supporters, and there's two ways that you can tell that that's absolutely a fact. The primary one being is that he watched them killing themselves and endangering their lives and throwing their futures down the fucking toilet for him on January 6th on television, just like it was a sporting event. Apparently, he was giddy about it, instead of horrified at what he had gotten these people into. That's some serious shit. And these assholes bought what he said, hook, line, and sinker. He did not take the power that he had come into very seriously at all. Just like every other, I mean, why should he? He's a second-generation rich kid. It's how they view the world in a lot of cases. There's some special cases, but, I'm not saying I believe in affluenza, but I do think that you got to fight back against being an asshole when you're born into that sort of circumstance. And the dude just could not enjoy this more. And then, now he's basically begging these fuckheads to throw themselves in front of a bus for them. The fascinating thing for all of his shit, Hype Train, by the way, welcome to the show, patreon.com/HalSparks, twitch.tv/HalSparks. YouTube is, of course, infotainmentwars.com. That'll take you there. Twitch, @HalSparks, @HalSparks on Spoutable. Follow me over there if you decide to hop that direction, because Twitter's already a dumpster fire, and it's about to have, like, garbage bags full of gasoline thrown into it fairly soon. Everything is going to be pay. It's going to be a fucking walled community over there soon. So, anyways, all of those things, like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, yada yada. Now, where were we? Oh yes. So the way he made it, Trump made it on the scene. And there were a few things that he said when he was campaigning that, that were horrifying to a lot of people, including that clip we saw of Glenn Beck this morning from back when Trump was running, saying Trump's a terrible person. He said he could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and not lose any support. That's horrible. And now he's, like, rooting for the motherfucker. I mean, it just shows you how, like, what a gadfly this asshole is, and how he just chases whatever influence he can possibly get. Very Alex Jones, very Russell Brand. They're all cut from the same cloth. That said, one of the things Trump said is that he could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and never lose. He got right in the middle of, and he wouldn't lose any support. The problem with that analogy is, and the way that Trump made it, is that it was never going to amount to anything, because Trump is fundamentally a coward. He's a wuss. He's a dork. He's a weakling. And he's always had other people as bulletproof vests. So he can have all the fucking bravado he wants, because the shots are never going to reach him. They're always going to reach the people who he's tricked into standing in front of him. The reason ultimately he could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and not lose any support is because he would hand the gun to Michael Cohen at the time and go, I don't even know who this asshole is. That's the kind of human being he is. And now it's hard not to recognize that when he has that thought, I could shoot somebody in the middle of Fifth Avenue and not even lose any support. He's not talking about shooting an enemy or a stranger. He's talking about effectively his own supporters, that they would fucking Jonestown themselves for him, line up to let him shoot them. That's the idea. That in his head, when he, because you and I, when he says something like that, we picture a stranger, Trump shooting a stranger. Just anybody. Pow, who gives a shit? Ah. But in his mind, it would more than likely be one of his own. That they would just let him. Or if they wouldn't let him, if he did shoot a stranger, they would take the gun and say it was them. They would take the responsibility. They would hide it. The reason he wouldn't lose any support is because one of his supporters would take the bullet for him, no pun intended, and take the truth with them to their grave, is the idea. Because what sounded like an act of absolute, murderous bravado is actually just indicative of this fucker all of his life recognizing that other people take his hits for him. And he's got reason to believe that, because that's been the history. Because barnacles will do anything to protect the whale, even if it means losing their own lives if they're stupid enough. And a lot of the people around him have been, or it took a lot, like in the case of Michael Cohen, for them to wake up to the fact that that loyalty was a one-way street, and they were always expected to pony up and go the extra mile, and he was never going to do anything to return the favor. Because, by the way, he already thinks he is. And Nika Kriegels, thank you so much for the gifted subs on Twitch. And bless you for that. Shadow Woman as well. Thank you, Francie. You guys are great. I appreciate it. And earlier, by the way, today, somebody jumped in. Yeah, it was TOH Show Live gifted some subs this morning. I wanted to acknowledge that. And I forgot to before we left the show. So thank you very much. And Glenna, thank you for subscribing on your own, too. So appreciate it. And Von Zoom, thank you for the super chat. This is, just here, I'll show you. So today, I was like, okay, we're going to look at a few clips of people who are reacting to the Trump indictment. Some of them finding out in real time. And the emotional devastation of these fuckwads is shocking even to me, even in watching these assholes over the last couple of years, where they have been ruining their lives, not the least of which, this son of a bitch, Mike Pillow, again, somebody we used to think of here at Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide and in our beloved chat, used to think of him as kind of a dopey, gullible sap who just got sucked up in the whole thing, and he's otherwise likable, just misguided. Nah, he's a fucking asshole. He treats his staff like shit. He's mean when he doesn't get his way. He's a dick. Always has. Initially I felt bad that guy Brandon House was picking his fucking pocket to build his TV network. And yeah, I'll call it Lindell TV. I'll just piggyback all my own shows on top of it. I used to kind of feel bad. That was the result, I'm sorry to say, of my own projection turned against me. Because I was projecting on, the best characteristics I could onto somebody for a bit, even with all the shortcomings we knew he had, that he was just basically dopey. And that ain't the case. And this is him on the War Room, by the way, a show he finances for Steve Bannon. When Steve Bannon needed a place to put his show, it's on Real America's Voice, but he also runs it on Lindell TV. I mean, she pays for half the fucking show, and RAV gets to air it for what? Whatever ads they put in interspersed throughout the show. So Bannon gets to fucking double dip in right-wing media world. That he pays for Steve Bannon, a dude who shellacked a bunch of maggots out of their money with this whole build the wall scheme. And Trump pardoned him for the crime of fucking with maggots. That part is amazing to me. Again, as much contempt as I may have for the average maggot, the super Trump supporter or whatever, and it is voluminous and serious, no doubt, it doesn't even scratch the fucking surface of the absolute bitter contempt and disregard that Trump has for maggots in general, for the followers of him. Because Trump thinks about those folks the same way he thinks about any woman who would sleep with him. I've always bucked back against the idea that Trump is a narcissist, because I ultimately think the guy doesn't think he's all that. He knows he isn't. And this is all chicken feathers. This is all just puffery to make himself seem like a badass or stronger or richer than he is, because he knows he's lying. He knows he's been lying about his fortunes. He knows he's been lying about, why he has the women in his life that he does, and that without the money, there's no fucking way any of them would have given him the time of day. He's aware of it, and therefore, he has a certain level of contempt for the women that have been in his life that he views as prostituting themselves just to get access to power that he knows he doesn't actually have. Can you imagine thinking this woman is sleeping with me for my money and I'm broke as fuck? Right? Of course he thinks they're full of shit. Of course he's disgusted by the sight of them. And himself. Well, he thinks the same thing about the maggots. They believe it when he says he knows the best people. And then he gets into office and he's like, I don't know who to hire for these fucking positions. Who you got? Like, come on. So this asshole, like we used to view as, basically gullible and bought it hook, line, and sinker. But no, he's a dick, but he's really upset. This one's titled, and we're going to have to judge today. Somebody's going to have to keep track. Who is the worst? Who's having the worst case of, of the copes of the maggot flip out, the maggot meltdown Olympics are on right now, and we're going to view them together. Starting with our first contestant at the line, Mike Pillow.
This recent prostate shrinking discovery is changing the lives of men across the US. Finally letting him fully empty their...
Mike Lindell, I can tell you, you're a hero to those folks out there.
Yes, those folks out there. Future crack millionaires. I'll look up to
as you're a hero to many people throughout the country. One, for what you're doing to fight every day to make sure we get the elections right. But not just that. I think in a broader scale.
Get the elections right. Yeah, that's what he's trying to do. I would say he's fighting a deep, dark, and desperate struggle with reality. But
just to have your company up in Minnesota to fight for American manufacturing, for hiring people here.
What the fuck are you talking about? He was just bitching 2 days ago about the fact that a bunch of his shipments got stopped because he gets his stuff sewn in Indonesia. Fuck out of here.
You're a beloved character, so I just want to get that message.
Character, I agree.
From the folks in East Palestine to you. But I got to ask you about this indictment that was announced overnight that'll be, I guess, served on President Trump when he's arraigned on Tuesday. What are your initial thoughts, given your closeness to the president?
Something like this.
Well, it is political persecution. They weaponized the justice system. It's an attack on his campaign. It's an attack on all American people. It's an attack on all of us. And
yeah, I feel personally attacked by it not happening sooner. That's not what you meant?
I believe that once again, evil is greedy. It's going to backfire on him.
Well, greed is a trait of evil. I think evil supersedes. If you're just evil, you're all of those things. You're also gluttonous and power hungry and support violence, all that kind of stuff. Jan 6 shit.
Going to go up in the polls, but the thing is, Steve,
nope.
it's very I I just can't stand when all these outlets like your Fox Newses.
Yes, all of the Fox Newses. There can be only one.
We had everything preempted yesterday and everything else, and to talk about. I realize it's big news, but like you say, what about Ohio? What about all the great things that are happening and getting rid of these election machines and going to paper ballots?
Yes. Why are we focusing on the first U.S. former president to be indicted ever and do stories about that and preempting all the news when we could be talking about small counties with less than 6,000 people in them deciding to count their ballots by hand because they're sure that everybody voted for Trump last time and they can't believe their neighbors realize that they're as big assholes as they're afraid they might be.
It's like they pick and choose what they want to make the news.
Yes, they pick the big shit and they don't pick the little shit. And you're kind of invested in little shit right now.
If anyone doesn't think this is all about politics and about his campaign, they're wrong.
Well, it is about his campaign in 2016 because that's when he actually committed the crime. So, yeah, it's a campaign-related crime. But believe me, I personally believe, considering Weisselberg's stance and his switching of lawyers and other shit right now, and that he would like to not go back to jail for other shit because there's still other pending charges against Weisselberg and the Trump organization, that I'm guessing that he's kind of planning on rolling, and that these 34 charges, only 4 of them have to do with the whole Stormy Daniels thing, and the rest of it's got to do with the whole fucking bank fraud, IRS fraud part, because the state tax collectors are going to have a problem, and the banks don't get to decide whether they're going to do this or not, because it would make it like they can't say, well, we're not going to prosecute. That regulations don't work that way.
It's the only reason they've done this. It's an anomaly in history, and
anomaly. And it's an anomaly. Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. It's a speed bump. It's an irregular bowel movement. Sure.
They've already went through this 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, whatever it was.
5, 2, 3, half a year ago. Who cares? The truth is they didn't.
There's nothing there. Donald Trump.
Nothing where?
Trump has the cleanest record of anybody in history with all the.
No.
Be attacked for 6 years now. It's disgusting. And it's just this is where we're at. Our journalism in this country and the media is just horrific. And you just.
It's terrible that they would spend so much time on the first U.S. president ever to be indicted for a crime in our nation's history and not follow you around as you flail about with these bullshit promises you've been making for 2.5 fucking years now that have not amounted to shit.
You know, you just said it yourself. You come back from the place they're forgotten up there in
in wherever that is.
In
Palestine. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I even forgot how to pronounce it.
Ohio and
East Palestine, Ohio. Well, whatever. One of the Palestines. 240, 245, whatever works.
And all the good things going on in our country.
Yeah, like the jobs numbers and manufacturing growth and strength of the dollar and the Dow and the NASDAQ and all that. You mean that? Oh, you don't mean that. You mean counties of less than 8,000 people having weird little votes where the mayor they rotate the mayor through, and sometimes it's a dog voting to count their ballots by hand when they basically still have to deliver them to be tallied by computer because that's how the state runs. Anyways,
it gets forgotten too. They don't report things anymore.
They don't report things anymore.
Mike, hang on a second for the people out there. I just got to put this up, and I realize we're cramped for time.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of time. I mean, he's only paying for the show. Broom him.
But this just came out from the White House, tweeted out from the White House on White House Stationery. Transgender people deserve love, dignity, and respect. On Transgender Day of Visibility, we want you to know that we see you just as you are, made in the image of God and deserving of dignity, respect, and support. We'll never stop working to create a world where you won't have to be brave just to be yourself, and that is signed President Joe Biden.
Terrifying. Oh my God. I'm chilled to the bone. The nerve of these folks it's How dare he?
We'll have more to discuss on this.
Yes, definitely. All right. So this is the misery. By the way, that's what you're jumping to? I honest to God thought they were going to go, yeah, those bastards. What the fuck? I honestly thought he was going to hold something like, this is from the White House. And I was like, oh, the White House say something about the indictment? I didn't think they were going to. And then it's just this fucking random side shot. Okay, so that's round one. That's them flipping out.